An April night wind funnels down from the northeastern Carpathians, rattling the rippling reed beds that line the horseshoe bend of the Sajó River. Somewhere in that darkness, an invisible army breathes in perfect silence, no campfires, no neighing, no clink of iron, only the ghostly flutter of sutras tied to bow staves. These are the Mongols of Batu and Subutai, veterans of Kiev's burning, Samarkand's sacking, and the snows of the Altai. Their scouts have spent weeks measuring Hungarian nerves, slicing village after village from Béla IV's fragile realm like meat from a roast. Now they wait in the black beyond the river, so still that a beaver slides past their spear tips unaware. Across the bridge, the royal camp of medieval Hungary sleeps fitfully, lulled by the creak of wicker wagons and the distant croak of bitterns. King Béla's great tent stands floodlit by torch clusters, its silk panels painted with Byzantine saints who seem to glare at the night as if foreseeing their own demise. There are reasons for confidence: a newly built pontoon bridge across the Sajó, German heavy cavalry outfitted with tournament lances, and a watchtower rumored to be impregnable because its foundation stones were blessed with holy oil. Yet confidence is a thin blanket against the cold vacuum of Mongol strategy. At 2 a.m. the first part of the thunderstorm breaks, though no one hears thunder. Instead, a cloud of flaming arrows arcs across the moon, each arrow trailing a silk streamer soaked in naphtha. They drift downward like falling stars, and when they land among the Hungarian siege wagons they alight in furious silence, each streamer igniting with a hiss that sounds uncomfortably like laughter. Moments later, the real laughter starts, guttural war cries rolling across the river as Subutai's vanguard charges the pontoon with the speed of myth. Within an hour, the bridge will be a tangle of charred timbers and drowning men, royal banners half submerged, and the very notion of impregnable will lie dead beneath mailed hooves. But the greater storm is still forming behind that curtain of flame, the main Mongol wings that will circle wide, exploit every distraction, and close in on the royal camp like wolves around a campfire. By noon tomorrow, the Sajó will carry more Hungarian blood than spring snowmelt, and Europe will awake to its worst military nightmare since the fall of Rome. Every empire has its apocalyptic rumor, and in 13th century Christendom that rumor wore a sable hat, rode a steppe pony, and spoke in accents no priest could parse. The Mongol Empire, seated by Temujin's confederation, watered by the blood of Tangut and Jin, and pruned with iron discipline, had exploded across 2 continents in less than a generation. By 1241 its western tumblers clicked into new chambers, the Grand Prince of Kiev dead, Polish knights shattered at Legnica, and a long arc of steppe reconnaissance probing the Hungarian plain. Yet medieval Hungary was not a passive stage prop awaiting destiny. King Béla IV, newly crowned and burdened by the kingdom's memory of Peter the Catholic's defeats, pursued reforms, stone castles, a call for Cumans to settle as border guardians, and the recall of German colonists adept at forest clearing and iron mining. His chancery produced letters begging the Pope and Holy Roman Emperor for a crusade against this devil's generation, but European politics were tangled in the War of the Thuringian Succession and Frederick II's showdown with Gregory IX. Hungary would stand alone. Subutai, arguably the greatest field commander of the age, had studied this vacuum with mathematical dispassion. His campaign map looked less like conquest and more like hydrology, rivers of manpower, confluences of trade, floodplains of vulnerable logistics. He divided the Mongol host into 3 prongs: Bidar sweeping through Poland to tie up any potential German relief, Orda circling north to isolate Novgorod, and his own wing under Bata marching through the Carpathian passes to pierce Hungary's softest underbelly, the Great Plain. Operationally, Subutai's doctrine combined mobility, misdirection, and psychological erosion. Convince the enemy's eyes that the main force is elsewhere, convince his limbs to run, then convince his heart to surrender before the decisive blow. Against Hungary he orchestrated feints toward Transylvania, hostage beheadings posted like parchment notices, and systematic torching of river fords, all calibrated to herd Béla's army toward the Sajó crossing at Mohi, where geography would cage them and Mongol maneuver would kill them. The Sajó River, swollen by snowmelt yet shallow enough for horses, snaked through marshland like a lazy eel. Forest belts flanked its banks, masking troop movements, gravel bars offered natural midstream staging areas, and a single island, Hare Rock, sat upstream perfect for archers to dominate both shores. Béla's engineers built a pontoon bridge near Mohi village, believing control of that bridge equaled control of destiny. It would soon prove a deadly bottleneck. As Lent gave way to Easter, spy reports alarmed Béla, towns torched in day-long intervals, suggesting converging columns. He ordered a full muster, Magyar horse archers, German knights, Slav levies, and Cuman auxiliaries whose loyalty had already begun fraying under Mongol bribery. They converged on Mohi, setting up a vast Wagon-laager ox-drawn fortifications chained wheel-to-wheel, cannonball-sized stones for catapults, and a central command tent so grand a Franciscan chronicler called it Solomon's throne by the river. On April 10, 1241, the chessboard was set, Hungarians inside a boxed-in castle of wagons, Mongols invisible behind forest screens, the Sajó murmuring between like a neutral witness awaiting testimony. Sunrise would bring the cross-examination. At precisely 2 hours past midnight, Subutai's craftsmen will forward trebuchets pre-assembled from cedar struts carried on pack camels. Unlike European machines, these counterweight engines use compressed rawhide sinew for torsion, giving silent release. Their ammunition, whistling pots, earthenware jars packed with grease-soaked reeds that ignite mid-flight. They arc over treetops, burst above Béla's laager, and rain fireflies of burning fat across ox hides and hay bales. Panic sparks, but Béla's chaplain blesses buckets of water, lines hold. The real purpose is distraction. At the same moment, 500 Mongol sappers in felt-padded shoes creep to the pontoon's northern support cables. Using bronze saws dipped in goat tallow to mute friction, they gnaw through hemp rigging strand by strand. By the time Hungarian sentries spot them, more than half the tension has vanished. A volley of crossbow bolts cuts down sappers, but the damage is done. The bridge now sags like a wounded serpent. Toward dawn, Batu orders a thunder run at the sagging bridge. Drums boom, 1,000 heavy lancers splash through shallows, their armor lacquered black, flags depicting two-headed eagles captured from Rus princes. Hungarian crossbowmen atop the watchtower unleash a lethal curtain, bodies pile, the assault appears clumsy, even suicidal. Béla's brother Kalaman exults, convinced they've repelled the vanguard. He dispatches 300 knights across the pontoon to finish the wounded. In the half-light those knights see only panic, a rout into the trees. They give chase, disappearing from Béla's sight. Too late does Béla notice a second dust cloud rising downriver, Subutai's real crossing. During the night his engineers threw boat bridges across a lesser-watched ford, masking construction noise with the trebuchet barrage. Now 10,000 horse archers emerge in perfect wedge, arrow quivers full, voices chanting Uruk. The call to unleash. Subutai's wedge fans into a crescent 3 kilometers wide, each rider capable of loosing 6 arrows in the time a crossbowman cranks one. Shafts blot sunrise. Hungarian front ranks raise pavises, arrows pierce where wood buckles for gapscape. Cumans attempt counter-archery but recognize their cousin's superior draw weight, many simply turn coats, galloping over to the Mongol left flank. Disciplined German infantry hunker under pavises, but the psychological bleeding has begun. The 300 knights who chased the feigned rout now find themselves enveloped. The wounded lancers remount fresh horses hidden in thickets, severing the pontoon's far end with axes. Hungarian knights are stranded on the wrong bank, backs to the Sajó, hemmed by rising Mongol reserves. They hack a path through rawhide shields but drowned by dozens in silt-filled eddies. Béla watches helplessly from his tower as banners vanish like extinguished candles. By mid-morning the wagons are a cauldron. Subutai concentrates catapult fire on 3 adjacent wagons, measuring splinter trajectories to find the weakest seam. Once a gap yawns, he unleashes the Mangadai elite horsemen feigning flight, drawing pursuers out, wheeling, and cutting them down. Béla's foot soldiers, starved for action, take the bait. As they sprint after retreating riders, a second column of heavy cavalry slams their flank. The laager line buckles inward, trampling its own archers. Mounted drummers with kettledrums the size of wine barrels circle the camp, beating irregular heart-like rhythms. Attached to each saddle is a goatskin bag inflated with bellows. As riders gallop, the wind howls through slits, creating a ghost chorus. Chroniclers later record soldiers dropping weapons to clasp ears, certain that demons flew overhead. Subutai always seeks the nerve center. A flight of 200 horse archers armed with long-range composite bows aims exclusively at flags marking Béla's command. Within minutes, banner bearers fall like scythed wheat. Queen Maria, sheltering behind supply wagons, sees the central cross standard tilt. Panic pounds royal eardrums louder than kettle drums. King Béla mounts, aims for fallback across Hare Rock Ford. Only a skeleton guard follows. With command signals lost, units fight locally then collapse. German knights form a hedgehog but are buried under arrow volleys. Slav levies break toward forest cover, only to be netted by lariats. By early afternoon the field is a mosaic of burning wagons, dead horses, and Mongol standard posts hammered into Hungarian bodies as grim signposts. Pursuit continues for 3 days, as far as the Danube crossings. Survivors stagger to Vienna telling tales of horsemen who rode thunder and arrows that turned day into night. Hungary's frontier castles capitulate by message arrow before the Mongols even arrive. Székesfehérvár, seat of coronations, surrenders its keys wrapped in silk. Pest is evacuated. The Danube freezes unusually early, granting the Mongols a natural highway deeper into Europe. Only Batu's eventual recall to Karakorum for succession duty spares the Holy Roman Empire a similar fate. Franciscan missionaries in Crimea translate survivor testimonies into Latin, distributing scrolls across monasteries from Prague to Paris. University scholars note, with horror, that Mongol composite bows and tests can punch through 16-gauge armor at 150 paces. Papal legates debate sending crusades east. Instead they send friars Giovanni de Pien del Carpine, William of Rubruck, to spy, learning more geography in a decade than Rome learned in a millennium. Centuries later, archaeologists dredging the Sajó net lamellar plates riveted with deerbone pins, Mongol design, and iron spurs stylized with lily motifs, Hungarian. On sonar maps the riverbed shows a strange ridge, a sunken line of pontoon pilings, each sheathed in now petrous hemp. Carbon date tests placed them exactly in April 1241. Stand on the bank of the Sajó in spring and the willows droop like sentinels in morning. The river flows under a placid veneer, yet every eddy seems to hum with half-remembered hooves, every ripple a muted scream of flaming arrows meeting wet flesh. Today bicyclists coast across concrete bridges where pontoon planks once cracked under armored weight, and fishermen cast lines where monks once prayed to wooden saints rescued from burning wagons. The Battle of Mohi, or Mohi, to Hungarian tongues, was not just a collision of armies, it was a tectonic scrape between worlds, pastoral nomad logistics versus agrarian feudal complacency, steppe composite technology versus wrought iron bravado, operational tempo measured in horse heartbeats against one measured in liturgical hours. Hungary rebuilt, yes, but forever scarred. Europe learned to speak the words Mongol and apocalypse in the same breath, and the Sajó itself learned that rivers can drown not only bodies but also the complacent myths of invulnerability. If this tale of Mongol thunder and medieval thunderstruck nations rattled your historical shield, then charge with us farther down history's path. Share this video with a strategist friend who still thinks fortifications beat fluidity, subscribe for weekly deep dives where empires rise and fall in real time, and comment, could Europe have stopped Batu if succession hadn't recalled him? Strike that like button harder than Subutai's night assault and ring the notification bell so no algorithmic fog blinds you to our next release. Because the past is a battlefield still breathing under the soil, and your curiosity is the torchlight we carry forward.